I mean, yeah. It's hey, I'm sleeping, man. I'm already calling this meeting over with. Just had a nice lunch, but we're gonna get the meeting started. Today we have Jamie Roberts, Beverly Reed, and then we have all the council members except Joel Days and Gina Gregory. We have our city attorney Paul, and as well as our staff and team, and then we have people here in the audience. Today we're going to be talking about some neighborhood development HUD, and so we're going to pass it over to Jamie and his department. They're going to go over all the details, and then if we have any questions from a council side, then we can stop and have those discussions at that time. All right, Jamie.
Thanks. So just quick presentation, just general overview of the department, and then we can get the numbers of the actual budget what we're looking at. So that first slide, just we've added another division of the department, housing improvement program on the end. You guys have seen this presentation more or less in different formats. The HIP been added, got a project manager in now. He started Monday, so good luck to him. But Baxter's been looking at that neighborhood and getting targeted investments going. Yeah, housing improvement program. Yeah, so we hired Baxter. Baxter Bishop, formerly with City Legal, went to county revenue, went in private practice, back to city, and then he's hired Kevin Concha, who's the project manager. Okay. So that project, that program's off and running with the initial $1 million investment. Next week there'll be a resolution, I believe, for $2.5 million from District 2 to put in the fund.
So that primary job is going to be what?
That looking at that targeted area, trying to get reinvestment. So helping to identify property, clear title, and then getting the design and build out on individual lots. So single family houses.
Yep. Where you in the community housing and development? Yeah, he was showing on the second page.
Yeah, second page.
Second page.
That last arrow on the right.
Flip it back, William.
There you go. Last arrow on the far right.
Part of the investment redevelopment neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's going to be citywide?
Right now, the campground.
Just
That was the first selected target area. It's based on poverty, blight, a couple other different factors that are in there that one went to the top.
That's the ordinance program.
Okay.
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 And it's funded by.
Okay.
I'm not going to go into all the details on these. It's a lot of the same stuff you guys have seen from us the last few years, but supplier diversity, we shifted the name because what she really does is work with small businesses. So small business development. It's a little bit of a nuance on that, but two-time Eagle Award, this Arsenic Kids Group, two-time Eagle Award winner, helped write the DBE ordinance that you guys passed in 2020. Small Business Saturday implementation, she helps coordinate that out in the park downtown. Contractors College with Bishop State, that's a HUD funded but run through her division process. Micro enterprise loans, which is again HUD funded, insurance bond licensing for small businesses to get them in the system to help them be able to bid on city projects and do the work that they're trying to get done. And then the Commonwealth Partnership, she's helping administer on the city side. That it's run by the bank, but we have to underwrite and double check the numbers, make sure the incomes qualify, that kind of stuff. And then the Money Move boot camp's coming up in April. It's April 12th. I don't have the exact date. I can get it to you, but next one's coming up. I think it's third version of that, fourth version of that, where it's financial literacy classes she does.
How was the participation last time? Do you know?
Pretty good. The first one was right at 100. I think the second one, I think this is the third one, was mid 60s. It was pretty good. Yeah. That first one got to where we had to turn people away because the room was full. The fire marshal was going to get us. We didn't. Municipal enforcement, they with the Bloomberg grant, the I-Team utilized the national best practice for tracking and getting rid of blight. In general, administer Chapter 52 City Code. 3 out of every 4 years are surveying residential property. That 4th year they're doing commercial. This is the 4th year, so they'll be doing commercial this year. Process high weeds and grass, litter, debris on property. Last year that said private property. We're working with Public Works to shift some people over, so they're going to be looking at public property also. But Public Works will still be the ones picking up the debris, litter. These guys will help cite the adjacent property owner. So that's a little bit of a change from what has historically happened. But that's about 2 to 3 months probably in the process of getting formalized. You got the junk vehicle ordinance you guys passed a few years ago. They processed those. About, I want to say it was about 800 got processed last year. And then the overall reduction in blight, around 50% since 2017, since that survey first started up. Community housing development.
Jamie, I
yeah.
had something on this,
Yeah.
this page here, on the municipal enforcement, public nuisances with this, new HB 104 that's hopefully going to be enacted here shortly, which expands this litter and debris on private property to be addressed. Is there anything in this plan that is going to say bolster those efforts now that we have this new capability?
Yeah, I haven't seen if the governor signed it yet. We were waiting on the governor to sign, but there'll be an ordinance coming right behind so we can adopt local legislation for it. But yeah, it'll let David's group go on private property for debris instead of having to wait for the grass to grow and getting the debris off when the grass gets cut.
But in this CDBG allocation of this plan, is there additional funding that's going to be? poured
Not for that.
towards
It's not HUD eligible. The citations sometimes are if you're doing them in coordination with structural citations, but the actual debris cleanup's not. Community housing development started in 2010, 2011. Short version is major fallout with the housing authority, major findings. HUD required the city to take it back because there wasn't capacity over there to run it in the format they had it. But we administer the HOPE program. Just had another one close. We'll be closing this week if it hadn't already closed today.
Where?
That one is Phillips Lane off Moffett.
Jamie, how many houses we have done with the whole program?
I don't know if I have it broken out by HOPE program. I've got single family new construction. Single family new construction 16 since 2020, but we've got about 50, a little over 50 underway.
How many under the whole program?
I don't have the number broken out. I just have the totals single family. And Karen's out today, so I can get you the number though.
Oh,
Yeah. They're starting to pick up though. That was getting it up and running was a little bit of legwork, but it's starting to go. Multifamily housing assistance, the Maryville Place, you guys saw that one just opened. Live Oak under construction, should be open in the next few months. They're getting all the brickwork's been done. They're getting the siding put on the exterior on the second floor. And then sheetrock's already been put in. They got to do their street driveways, parking, and then the landscaping. So that should be up and running soon. But it's generally gap financing on apartment projects, what we are asked to do in coordination with tax credits or bonds. Single family housing, critical repair grant, down payment assistance, single family development, which right now is Woodcock and Arlington. Woodcock's 22 single family houses, Arlington's 23. And then this department facilitates other city programs between the different sections. So the micro enterprise loan program that small business has, the tenant advocate inspector, municipal enforcement. So if there's a rental situation, tenants having issues with their landlord, got pretty major code violations, they can call us, ask for an interior inspection, then we'll have a direct contact with the landlord to try and get those fixed.
Question.
Yep.
When they call these in under 311, are we responding at that time?
Yeah, if they say the right buzzwords, it depends on the request that comes in. We're only as good as the information comes in. But if they say interior inspection or interior code issues, yeah, that triggers to get to the municipal enforcement.
The reason why I'm asking is because that reel I saw last night,
She called us the same day she called Darwin, and so we got out there Friday morning.
so it's something.
Yeah.
Wasn't something we were just.
No, it was the same time. And when we looked, I actually got a report this morning. There were no exterior code violations, so there was no way for us to know till she told somebody. But we're in it, and they should be getting the citations out. I think they might have gone out yesterday, if not today.
Jamie, with the critical repair grant program, when would that program, when people can start back applying?
We're still working through the applications from last cycle, and we don't know what the future holds. I can get into that in a second on federal funding, but at the earliest looks like July 1st because we still got to wait on HUD to get us the grant agreement for this current year.
All right.
So this is, like I said, I'll get into it in a second with the federal funding, but this is the next step to get us closer to get our grant agreement, is you guys approving the budget. Once we get that, then we can have a better date.
Is this the same money that the roofs come out of?
Yeah.
So that project, that program we normally release in April won't be released.
It's
until
pushed
July
back because
this year.
that continuing resolution took so long to get Congress. Yeah. to get through Congress.
Okay. And you said that we're still going through last year's application?
Yeah, we took 800 and something applications last year, so we still got a handful of those we got to get through. We're not able to do all of them. There's not that much money, but we're trying to do as many as we can.
So anybody that applies this year probably will not.
We're going to try to get at least some done this year, out of this year's batch, yeah.
How much money do we have to do it?
Roughly 650, 700,000 a year.
Jesus.
Yeah, roofs, just so everybody knows, roofs cost about 8,500 on average.
So how many did we do last year now?
119? 119.
19.
Today's, the applications for the fortified housing opened up with the state today.
Yeah.
The applications for that as well.
And they take them for not long. Yeah, maybe a couple hours, I think.
Yeah, because everybody applies for them.
Yeah, there's no income restriction from what I've heard on that one, so everybody jumps in on that one, try to get in. What was I?
He was on the coordinates facility city programs. He was on.
The blight removal liaison, police inspectors, and municipal enforcement, those are half and half, general fund, half grant. They're providing code enforcement on structural issues in low mod areas, census tracts. Various blight removal projects. So if David runs out of budget, then we sometimes get involved in helping on a bigger project, like Maine's was a CDBG funded demolition. Joseph Allen was a CDBG funded demolition, stuff like that. And then the various homeless service providing nonprofits. You'll see the list of nonprofits. A lot of them the same. A couple of new ones this year, but trying to get as much of this out on the streets as we can.
This is outside of CDBG, right?
Which one?
No, this blighted properties and all that stuff, the inspections.
Not necessarily. Like the police liaisons are half and half,
Well,
and then the tenant advocate is 100% CDBG.
yeah, the reason why I was asking is because some stuff I've been reading lately. The city has a number of ordinances and things that are that have been enabled by state legislation that we're not taking care of, or we're not taking advantage of it when it comes to vacant properties and stuff like that we're totally not using, that we can and that we should be. And I think that we need to start looking at that in David's department as opposed to trying to write new stuff. Over the last week, I've gone back to 2008 and actually looked up every piece of that. And there are a lot of things we can be doing. And I think that we need to start taking a look at those ordinances and state statutes that we can use as opposed to trying to rewrite the law.
Yeah, if you have any specifics, give them to us. It may be that they got adopted and not a local legislative follow-up on it.
No, they were adopted.
It was a local act that came, or local
Yeah,
resolution?
there's several opportunities that we're not taking advantage of simply because we've forgotten that they're out there
Okay.
because of the way nuisance abatement is set up. And I think that we should be taking a stronger look at that.
We can take a look at them. Yeah. Housing improvement program, touched on the overview of that, but you guys authorized it in October. Target area was selected November, program director hired in December. Had the architect and surveyor engaged in February of this year. First house the site's been surveyed. The house is under design. Should be back this week, I think. If not this week, next week, somewhere in the next week and a half or so.
Which
And then
house?
1102 Congress, the first one. And then there's 5 other lots beyond that in inventory that we're looking at building on, plus the ones we're trying to acquire.
So we could possibly do 17
It was,
altogether? Or is it
the
20?
13 aren't all big enough to build on, so we'll have to merge some of those together. But
So
yeah, it'd
It'd
be
be 17,
it'd be a decent number. It probably in the mid-teens.
mid-teens.
Yeah, some of those are 20 foot wide. We'll have to merge them together to get 40 feet.
Well, we don't have to have 40 feet anymore.
They're all 100 feet deep, so we'll still need 40 by 100. If they're 120 deep, a couple of them might have been 120. Might be able to get away with a little bit skinnier.
With the avenue overlay we want to have.
Okay. Yeah, if you go down below 4,000, we can look at that. But right now they're 20 by 100, I believe, most of them, the smaller ones. And then these are just some pictures of examples of what's going on. The one on the left on the multifamily one is Maryville. The one on the right is at Live Oak one. That's actually a pretty old picture. It's, like I said, already getting bricked up and siding put on it now. A couple of examples of critical repair grants. few examples for down payment assistance. Next to that bottom right one is the Phillips Lane property. It's the opposite side where the next one's going for Hope program.
Okay.
Hope program. That's the Gaslight property, most recent one that closed. Gaslight District 6. Again, I had an old picture of this one. This one's further, much further along with the street getting put in. This is Woodcock on the subdivision development. And then the last slide in your guys' packet, just future federal funding budget status. Just a quick recap. February this year, the initial House budget resolution, they directed all committees to cut total $2 trillion over 10 years. THUD, which is Transportation HUD Committee, was told to cut $10 billion over 10 years. For reference, the CBG budget is $3.3 billion a year. So even if the entire billion in THUD went to CBG, there should be a survival program on the back end of that, theoretically. So we'll have to watch to see what happens, but it looks like it's safe unless they completely cut it and move it to some other program to cover. That we don't know. We also don't know how they're going to send it down. We've been hearing that we prefer the money come directly to us because it gives us a lot more leeway. We've also been hearing they might give it all to the state and we have to go to Montgomery and get our portion. So that would be a new wrinkle and pretty difficult to do because the state doesn't typically have housing programs. So that might not go well. So we're hoping that minimal cuts and it comes to us directly because it just makes life easier for everybody and we can keep going on programs everybody likes. But beyond the February 2025 initial House budget resolution, that didn't get through Senate. There was a continued resolution passed in March, level funding from last year minus a few oddball things that they pulled out. But generally, all programming is the same through this September. That budget is what funds our city budget we're requesting now. So it's always the year behind. So when HUD gets their full year budget, we get our current year budget. And then the upcoming federal fiscal year for 2026, that continuing resolution goes through in September, and there's going to be another budget fight around August this year. We don't know where it's going. There's heavy talks in the House still. Senate seems like they're not as heavy of cuts. Probably somewhere in the middle, and we'll just have to wait and see. So not to be a Debbie Downer at all, but that's where we're at. And there's just some highlight numbers. I don't have these in yours because we can give out some numbers in general, but the mayor's update on his 1,000 homes since 2020, just for reference, from May 2014 through April 2020, which is 6 years, 628 housing units were affected by that department, down payment assistance, rehab, that kind of stuff. So 628, those 6 years. And then the last 4 years, really getting into the fifth year now, it's 1,973. So we're almost double the 1,000 homes, and we have another year and a half, year and 3/4.
The majority of those homes is where?
The rehabs are scattered, probably District 1, 2, 3, 7, for the most part.
Where's the most though? The most?
By far, District 1, 2, 3. I'd have to go look. Jenny might know. Jenny? Okay. We don't track by district. We can look up addresses and figure it out if we had to, yeah. If I had to guess, 2 and 3, because there's a big chunk of 1 that's pretty non-dense up around the Moffett area, but it's going to be that area.
Are you calling these single family homeowners or are these rentals that you're talking?
The critical repair is only homeowner rehabs. We don't do rental rehabs typically unless a developer comes to us to get a loan, because we don't want to enrich a private developer that's there to make profit.
And how many have qualified for 2025?
Say it again.
How many do you have qualified for the 2025 funding?
We haven't taken applications yet.
You just told me that we had
We're still working on the last
800
budgets.
left over. So out of that 800, how many do we have qualified? You had it for all year.
Let's say we're still working on the 24 budget. Haven't gotten to 25 yet. I'd have to sit down and sort through it and tell you exactly. I can get it back to you. Just don't have it right a second. The only multifamily we have in that number is the Maryville, though, 96. They got 3 more apartment complexes coming online in 3, 1 in 6 potentially, It's senior, and then the one in 7 underway.
How the apartment complex is funded.
A combination, well, they all have bonds and tax credits attached to them. We don't have enough money to finance anything.
Are we using that, a deputy DR money yet?
That's, there's 3 9% applications that have been submitted to the state that have that attached, but beyond that, we're still sorting through applications.
How many for the entire county? 9% were submitted, because that's extremely competitive, and there are only 2 awards per
There's
county.
4 total were submitted from what we can gather. And you can actually get 3.
So who's all submitted? Because I know one has already been disqualified because the property owners are reeling against it, the neighboring property owners. So are we involved in all 4? Or
No,
are we just-
we don't have the one in the county.
Huh?
There was one in the county, not including
So,
those.
all right, because it takes the city requirement, CDBG, to be able to respond to it. So we're involved in all 3.
Mhm.
And how much of our funding is involved with it?
It'd be a total $4.5 million.
And that's out of the 53 million?
So those are $4.5 million, but they're $30 million complexes each, roughly. So you're talking about $4.5 million to get $120 million worth of housing out.
Where do you know the areas that involve the 9% tax credit?
Yeah, it's the Knollwood property that's zoned B1, not the other one.
That one's,
That's senior. Maryville 2, which is the property behind the first Maryville, and then Hertel Crossing, which is around the corner from that.
Hertel Crossing. That stands to get you.
Yeah, that one's a Chodo, looks like the only Chodo application that might make it through.
That's the only one
Yep.
that I'm hearing about.
And then Maryville 2 looks like it might be the highest score in the state again. And there's a chance if that happens, the other one comes in also because the highest score in the state, I think the way it reads, they pull that out and it doesn't get considered as a county level.
I stopped looking at that. I just hope that we were able to get at least 1 or 2. out of
Just for everybody not familiar, it's unheard of to get one every few years. This will be basically back to back, bond and tax credit. Only ever happened 2 in 1 year once. It was when I was in Birmingham. It's never happened 3 in 1 year. So we'll have to see.
They're saying that because we've been winning so much, we may not win.
Yeah, it does get a little political, it seems. So
Councilman Woods.
They, Jamie, that'll decision comes down what, August, is that?
the Alabama Housing Finance Authority hasn't announced when their board meeting is this summer yet, but it's usually June or July. It's once a quarter. So yeah, by August, we should know either way.
So what are we gonna do with the rest of that money?
We took proposals in December and we're still sorting through. Part of it has to be held back just because we don't know if any of those won. And so if they didn't win, we got to decide with a developer, do those go into the 4% bond side or they, are they have
4% tax credit?
Yeah.
Or 4%
the bond?
With 4% tax credit, they're not competitive. So you're saying that we have some 4% office here in the city?
Mhm.
Where are they?
I have to go back and look. We hadn't sorted through all those yet because we've been waiting for the tax credits. We have to hold back some of the funding no matter what, because if the tax credits don't win, you got to have enough to piece together for another project. So we'd have $1 million here or there freed up to go into something else.
Councilman Reynolds.
Before we go too far down the road, I want to understand what you said about this B1 property in Knollwood. Is that the one that's currently up for rezoning?
That's a different one. That's around the corner from it.
This is it's B3. I think it's
That's B3,
rezoned
sorry.
B3. It's,
Okay, that's the one at the point.
yeah, it's where the medical offices were, not the hospital site itself. That rezoning for that, I think we see it next week or the week after that.
And what we're talking about is the city contributing out of ARP funds towards that project and supporting the tax credit request.
Disaster fund. Yeah.
Disaster funds. Okay. And the city and the developer have an application for a tax credit.
Right. So we're
And
just,
if they don't get the tax credit, what's the impact on the project?
so right now the commitment from the city is $1 million to the project. It's a $30 million hopefully project. If it doesn't happen, that million goes back in the pool for the remaining projects we have on hand to sort through.
All right. Do we have any other questions regarding the neighborhood development package? All right, now we're going to move on to the 2025 CDBG funding recommendation.
I was pointing out a couple highlights on here. Not a lot changed. The Housing Authority didn't apply this year for the CNA program, so that one recommended 0 after getting 30,000 last year. District 1, 2, and 3 food pantries, we recommend 45,000 there. Uh,
45,000 or 450,000.
45.
Why so low?
Based on their monthly spending, that's probably about right.
What did we give them last year?
They didn't get any last year because they've been paid out of the COVID CDBG funds. It's multiple year funding.
How much did they get last year per
Scanna, do you know that? But it was multiple years.
It was multiple years.
Yeah, it was like 3 years, 2, 3. Yeah.
So are they gonna be able to meet their needs at $45,000 based on what they've been doing for the
Yeah,
last
they've-
3 years?
They've slowed down substantially since COVID came and went.
So these 45,000 being split in 3 different districts.
What we're trying to do, we'll see if it works. Yeah, theoretically, 3 different, it's always going to be 3 different districts, but we're trying to get one of them to be the lead agency instead of all of them being individual, because there's one that's coordinating a little better than the other 2.
So this is $15,000 per district?
Right. But it's just to supplement that COVID money that is now going away.
And so this is what we gave in the past. It hasn't.
It's to
Outside the COVID money.
it's to keep them going. They've never been funded at a regular CDBG. This is the first time.
Okay.
So, but their annual allocation was $100,000?
No, that was about a 3-year allocation. And like I said, the first year during the height of COVID, they were really burning through it, and it's substantially dropped off since then.
So $30,000 a year is basically what they're looking at. So they're getting cut by half.
I don't think they're getting cut. I think this is all they can handle. They don't spend the money that fast. Their volunteers have dropped, the need has dropped, everything's dropped. So I think this is right at it.
You know, I'm asking because every year I do 3. I do 7,500 at VIA, you know, and I do another 7,500 somewhere else. In VIA, they supplement that money for that pantry. And they're saying that they needed additional money.
This isn't for VIA. This is the, this in your district, it's going to be the Africatown CDC.
Okay, and only that one.
Yeah, that was the COVID response. Food pantries got set up, and these are just to continue with those existing programs. So in yours, there's Ackertown, Crichton, Tolemville in yours, and then Revelation, which is working with Baltimore Street. Yeah.
So we need to keep funding the other ones that were funded throughout other sources.
Mobile area interfaith didn't apply last year. I think it was just missed opportunity for them. Looking at 20,000 on that this year. I believe that's all the main things. Everything else is more or less about the same. A couple little minor shifts, but more or less about the same.
What's the intern program?
That was back when the Sweet Pea program with the Housing Authority was at its height, and they had a whole bunch of people coming in for interns, and then the city started YES program. We were supplementing to send interns to our nonprofits. Hadn't really been the need in the last few years. A lot lower turnouts from intern requests.
For the same request that we serve for the YES program? Is it the same age?
It is, but it's more restrictive a little bit because of the eligibility.
Okay.
Yeah, the number of potential applicants to be interns has gone down, and then the need requests from the nonprofits has also gone down.
So my question is, and I guess it seemed like they're getting more. From my understanding, with so many applications that came in for the YES intern, that they didn't have enough funding to be able to employ these young people. I guess with these funds, we can't.
The YES program, because the way it works, isn't really compatible with the HUD program. That's why we had always attached the Housing Authority the way they did it. They qualify the household. Very, very reluctant to have. Typically, the parents don't want to show us their income when their kids trying to be an intern. That's what we end up with if you do it the other way around. You come through the YES program. It would just add another layer that probably won't be followed. Money will just sit there.
So Jamie, just a clarification, this money that we're looking at now, or these recommendations, this money is secured?
This is the congressional budget that just passed. This would be that money.
So this is secured.
Yeah, and I didn't mention it. Something else we want to avoid is we do want to get approval as fast as we can because we don't want it to disappear on us.
It does.
So we want to get a contract or grant agreement with HUD signed as fast as we can.
And that's my question. So with the food pantry, when would this kick into effect?
Theoretically, May 1st, but it's all dependent on how fast HUD approves our budget, going back and forth, and then getting our grant agreement signed.
Because I thought I was told that for District 3, that they weren't going to start back up till the end of the summer because of funding or something. I can't remember the conversation.
It may have been, I remember meeting with them. We've probably discussed with them, there's a little bit of the COVID money left, and they have some under contract now. And so it's getting them to when HUD gives us that money, maybe the end of summer, because HUD's not the quickest. But we're trying to get it in as fast as we can so that, you know, somebody doesn't hold a grant agreement and it just goes away.
All right, thank you.
James, I kind of want to go back to this intern program. So when we did the 20, did we spend it? That in 2024? Did we have money?
Hadn't been
left
spent the
over?
last couple of years, really.
So what happens to those
It
funds?
gets put back in the pool for nonprofits. It's reallocated.
And so where did we allocate that money? Oh, well, we haven't, because have we allocated it to other nonprofits yet?
Yeah, I believe so. Shannon, do you remember? Where I went to? We'd have to pick it up for you. We can get you an answer.
I mean, the reason why I just think we need to really kind of focus on, young people need opportunities. And I don't know if we fund into nonprofits where they can give the opportunity for internships.
We've tried it.
And so now you're still able to provide that service. But if we're cutting the numbers in the YES program because we don't have enough and these kids want to have a job, if we can move that funds into a nonprofit that will hire our young people to be able to do these type of services, then I think that would be used wisely.
Yeah, we've tried both ways, and like I said, since COVID, really the number of applicants has dropped pretty substantial. And nonprofits didn't want them there either, which is kind of how it landed. But we tried doing the direct, basically we put them on our city payroll and send them to the nonprofits, or we'd have the nonprofit, add to the nonprofit contract whatever amount they had of interns and add to the contract. And neither way really worked out because it's just not that many applicants coming through that qualify on the HUD side.
Mr. Garrett.
Mr. Chairman, if you're thinking about wanting additional funding for the YES program, that's what it sounds like you're trying to do, right?
That's correct.
Well, if I remember correctly, this is just what they'd like to see us do.
Mhm.
Council has the authority to rearrange these dollars as it sees fit if you want to try to move money from one line item to another. The question is that you'd have to identify the line item to rearrange the budget based on need.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
if you like to look at that, I would suggest that you talk with Jamie before this hits the council agenda for approval, which the first read was today, if that's what you're really trying to do as far as providing a way for internships for young people.
Yeah, we'll look at some.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
the YES program, my understanding that we have more applicants than what we have money to allocate to in the YES program.
I'm not sure.
that's correct.
Do you know about how much?
I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that they turned a lot of students around last year because they didn't have enough funds.
But in order for this money to be allocated towards that program, they have to meet a higher standard, a HUD standard,
Yeah,
which is income based, I'm sure.
it's income, but youth by themselves don't qualify. So we can't have youth programming without the household being qualified. But you also, because it's youth program, you have to send them to a nonprofit that qualifies. That's where there's too many rules that were attached to it, and there weren't enough applications, and nonprofits coordinating on that.
We'll look and talk
We can
about
talk,
it.
yeah.
Okay. All right.
One more thing, just remember now, CDBG isn't like it used to be. It's not a whole lot of money right here we're talking about using. So whatever we move, it's going to hurt somewhere else.
Yeah, that's why we got to look at it and just see to make sure we can make it happen. All right, you continue, James.
Any question on CDBG before I jump to the next grant? Okay. The next one is ESG. That's the homeless related grant. The only real big change in this one, Salvation Army didn't apply this year, and Franklin Primary did. So that's almost literally a swap out, different service provided, but the funding swap out there.
He went too fast.
We're
What
on
did I
the
miss?
second
Second,
page.
second page.
I know, but what I missed about Franklin?
Say Salvation Army didn't apply, and then Franklin did, so we just more or less swapped that funding. Everybody else stayed the same within the caps we have allowance for. The service being provided is different. They're doing medical assistance outreach versus what Salvation Army typically does. And then the legal services, which is kind of the catch-all number, that dropped a little bit because the overall grant last year dropped a little bit, so we have to adjust it down. More or less, everybody else stayed the same.
All right.
Any questions for the ESG funding recommendations?
It's my understanding we can't do anything until we know what y'all are gonna do with the other 800 from last year. Emergency shelter, the emergency shelter grant, the money from the ESG.
There's no money from ESG.
I thought Chair just said ESG, didn't he?
No, I just said any questions.
Oh, okay.
By ESG, you have to allocate within 1 year and spend within 2
1
years. So
year.
it's constantly getting spent. Yeah. And then home did get cut a pretty decent amount last year after all the dust settled. So we're proposing kind of almost the same budget this year. Down payment assistance, we try to keep that funded. It pretty straightforward. People coming in 1-2 houses a month getting down payment assistance, 150,000 there.
Are
And
we
then
using that money on our programs, Jamie, or are we giving that money to other programs?
the down payment assistance.
Yes.
That is, the application is generated through banks. So we have a list of qualified, lenders that have signed up with us and gone through a little seminar with us, explaining how the system works. And then they actually take the application and forward it to us with all the other information to try to get to closing.
We gave Commonwealth Bank $2 million in HUD funding.
Mhm.
How many
ARPA.
I'm sorry, that's right, in ARPA funding, how many have they generated with the use of that $2 million? Do we have anything to measure what they've done over there since they've gotten the money?
Yeah, I'd have to check. Arsenic's out today. I'll have to check and get that number. But I know that they've had multiple loans go out. We actually have one of our small contractors got enough to do a house. He's trying to go back and get another line of credit to do a second house. So there's about a quarter or so of it's out right now.
A quarter of the 2 million?
Yeah.
And it's been
It's been 2 years, but it didn't really get marketed till about a year because they had some staff changes. And so this last year is where it really got going.
And we have until 26 to eat that money up?
Yeah, 2026.
So that's December 2026.
We're working with Commonwealth to do more mortgage developer style stuff. And so I think it'll be pretty easy to do that. They're looking at doing single family.
So yeah, Jamie, with the Commonwealth, do you have to have a certain qualifications? Like, is this single family or can a business?
It's generally any business because we do a lot of housing. We're trying to get more leverage on it to do housing. So we've been coordinating with them to do that on single family home ownership side. You fund the developer to build it out and that helps the cash flow and everything. But generally it's going to be meeting one of the standardized minority, small business, disadvantaged business kind of definitions, SBA, DOT, HUD Section 3, something like that. So income limits, and then the size of the business is what they're looking at. But then they also are underwriting. Sidney King will tell you every time. These are loans, and so they have to go through underwriting every time, make sure they can pay it back, and so it's a real loan.
So
But
when you
it's
say
below market rate.
income limits, what do you mean by income limits too?
It depends on which path they qualify. Like it says, SBA has a definition, DOT has one, and HUD. If you're in a particular one, then the owner has to be low to moderate income. Sometimes it's you hire low to moderate income people, and that's a certain number of your employees are low mod. So it just depends on each company.
There's a set of guidelines that you can get. I think it would
Yeah.
be wise that if you give the council that summary of guidelines so that they know. The housing board, when they were on the program, used to give it out every year so that the council could memorize it. That's where I got a lot of the background knowledge I have on that way the city runs it. But if you want to know the details, there's a guideline booklet you can have. I think it'd be good for you, Corey.
Yeah.
And maybe the whole council that isn't up to date on HUD regs and CDBG.
Well, Mr. Penn.
Yeah,
Councilman Jamie, that as far kind of going into the 2 million, a quarter's used already. I'm making some changes. Are some of those changes kind of maybe taking that program and making it function more like a, I guess, builder line? versus just individual transactions. Is that kind of the theory of getting behind that?
Yeah, and it wouldn't be the whole thing because there's still other lending they need to do and other people coming in. But yeah, we're working, if there's shortfalls on our programs or if we see, single family need in certain areas, we're trying to get our developers to them to try to get the line of credit. Yeah.
Because I think some of that underwriting criteria, you can go ahead and underwrite a chunk and then just break it up into individual lines and kind of control the risk that way. That was just my thought. That to me
Well,
would be a
it'll
good
also be
fit.
secure because they have real estate against it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, anything else from the home funding recommendation? All right, Jamie, you have anything else?
No, that's it. Like I said, we're trying to get this in as fast as we can to the HUD so we can lock it down.
All right, I'll be speaking to Jamie regarding some of the things that I talked about. I'll share that information as soon as possible with the rest of the council. If you have anything, any recommendations, anything we need to discuss, we need to do this as soon as possible because we want to make sure we get the funding in. Any other questions from the council? Anything from you all, Jamie? This time I can call this meeting adjourned this time.
Chairman, we had some realtors back here. Did y'all have any questions of us?
We actually, we probably need to set some up, Jamie, before we actually did a form with those qualifications. But I think it's about time that we do something else again. And so I'll get with Jamie and then we can look at some and especially having you all support it and letting people know about it. That would be great. So we can set something up.
On the neighborhood revitalization program on the empty lots, is there any funding available to have housing built on those lots for our clients?
The answer to that is yes, but you're going to have to qualify through the city program. Right now, I got a resolution coming to transfer over into the city's account $2.5 million, and the mayor has another $1 million. We're looking at possibly 15 immediate properties to start within probably the next 3 to 6 months, and they'll be within a target area. We need to set up we had one meeting where we talked to the residents in the target area, but we need to have a meeting where we're actually talking to the realtors now because there are people you guys know that would qualify that we don't know. So we'll get that set up so that you guys can help us get these neighborhoods reseeded.
And then our HOPE program also provide some of the services that you stated. So everything is online under neighborhood development. So if you have any residents that or any people that you would like to work with, they can look at that HOPE program as well and see if they qualify for that. But I think it's about time, like I said, we maybe do a citywide a meeting, and so we can talk about all the different great programs that we have. We also do that at our community meetings as well. So at my community meeting, we share this information, but having a targeted forum for this, I think would be a plus as well.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question just to understand how this housing improvement program may work. Y'all may have explained this when I stepped out, but there's going to be $3.5 million that Mr. Carroll has just talked about. That $3.5 million will build a house, and then a buyer would get financing, and then maybe there's some down payment assistance, and they'd come and finance the house, and then that money would go back into this fund,
Into the program.
Right.
and then you do it again.
Yes.
And then, but the city's, is it going to be a net neutral deal, or they're going to, when you
No,
roll in the down payment assistance, it's got to eat into your principal amount.
Well,
So-
we're going into the most needed target area also, so we know our cost of build is going to be higher than our appraisals. And then until we build the comps up to counteract that, we're going to be taking a loss on the first ones.
So your appraisals will likely be less than what your
Right.
cost is. Okay.
Are there any grants available when you say to get your comps up? Obviously, the renovations on the other properties in those neighborhoods. Are there grants available for investors and builders to be able to renovate the other properties?
Yes, as long as they can qualify under the HUD standards. That's typically a HUD funded thing with the city. So you have to qualify as a HUD level developer.
You talk about the blight.
No,
No.
it can be for profit. Yeah, it's the higher threshold is going to be the HUD. You know, are you a developer or not? They have a pretty specific set of standards.
You talk about the blight program, right?
Not just blight, but the home can be used to
Home
rehab stuff like that.
conditions,
Yeah.
okay.
Those qualifications are on your website as well?
There's a developer application on the website, and it's I think it's got 15 tabs you'd fill out. And basically, when we get that, we can tell from the application if you're qualified or not because it's got the information in it.
And it's also only so much funding in those categories as well. So it's limited funding for the cities that our size. But it is some funding there. All right. Thank y'all. You have a great day.
Oh, what?